My favorite loud Jew from New York. Aaron always loves when you're in here as well. All right, hey. Eitan.
Free Diddy. Free Diddy. My man is innocent. We all have hundreds of liters of baby oil in our basement.
Right.
Is that such a crime?
Yeah. By the way, Eitan, were you sure? Did he turned around and said, "I'm coming home" or something, right? Have you been following the P. Diddy? We didn't cover it at all.
Funniest thing of all time is that one time I was walking back from a show at like 2 a.m. downtown, and there's a huge line of people. And I was walking, I was like, there's a really long line of people. I asked them, and they were like, oh yeah, we're waiting to get into Diddy.
Uh-huh.
Like, there was like a line to get into this trial. I have not been following too much. I think I got the highlights.
Okay.
He seems like not the best guy, is what I learned from this.
Okay.
I think he's got a problem with women.
Yes. Wow, Eitan, what a powerful take you're taking there on P. Diddy and his problems with women. But I want to talk about another individual. I've been following the story of the 33-year-old gentleman, Mamdani. Right. He is an avowed socialist / small letters communist. He gets looks like he's going into he will be the candidate up against Mayor Adams there in New York City. And the thing that have a lot of people questioning, like, does this guy just really have a serious problem where he hates Jews? Here he is.
Globalize the Intifada. It's a term many Jewish people and even the U.S. Holocaust Museum say is a rallying cry to kill Jews. Mamdani says he's heard those concerns, but he maintains that the phrase means a struggle for basic human rights for Palestinians and many Muslims.
My point is not that this is language that I use. It is a larger point about these words have different meaning for many different people.
Okay. He is a great politician in that he can smile and tilt his head in the proper directions and really do a good job of answering questions. 14% of Jewish voters in New York voted for this guy. But I wanted to, I've been watching the story, and I thought, let's get Eitan on. What is your take on this young candidate socialist that may become mayor of New York City?
Yeah, so there's a couple of things with this.
Okay.
One, it doesn't matter to me how he feels about Israel. Like, he's the mayor of New York. He can't do anything about Israel. I remember that during his campaign, he made some comment about how if Bibi came to New York, he would arrest Bibi. You're not arresting Bibi. You're the mayor of New York. That would be like if Eric Adams was trying to arrest Putin. Like, it's not a practical thing. So there's an issue where I don't think he fully understands or like fully wants to put out exactly what the roles and limitations of mayor are. The issue with the Intifada chant is a whole big problem that he just keeps on not handling correctly. The Intifada chant, the globalize the Intifada chant, is a thing that's been popping up at these protests. Now, it is different than the Free Palestine chant. You want to chant to Free Palestine, go for it. I don't have an issue with that. The Intifada is about a specific series of bus bombings and lynchings and stabbings and shootings that were directed at innocent Israelis. It wasn't against the IDF, it was against Israelis. The first one was a little bit, more peaceful. And then the second one was like one of the darkest times in Israel, in the history of Israel. It also, to be honest, did not exactly lead to the Palestinians' lives getting any better. The big thing about the Intifada and these globalized Intifada chants is that things got way worse for the Palestinians after the Intifada. The border walls went up around the West Bank after the Intifada ended. Bibi came in and was able to solidify himself way more as a as a political figure and was able to impose his will over Palestinians because of the Intifada. So it's dumb to chant it, and at best it's just stupid, and at worst you're chanting at Jews that you're okay with the lynch mob. So in New York, when you hear the globalized Intifada chant, immediately you're like, wow, that is hearkening back to a series of terrorist attacks. And then on top of that, you have to understand that over the past 650 days since October 7th, anti-Semitic hate crimes against Jews have skyrocketed. Skyrocketed. And I'm not saying that the extreme right doesn't have their weird issues with Jews, but the extreme left was responsible for an overwhelming majority of those attacks on Jews during that time. those attacks, if you were assaulted in America as a Jew because of your religion, if you were stabbed, if you were shot, if you had a Molotov cocktail thrown at you, it was usually followed by a globalized intifada chant. So him not wanting to go on to air and go on to whatever and say that he's against the chant is so damaging, because it just means that he's not going to rein in these protesters when eventually we do have another problem next year. School is about to start up again. I live near Columbia. This is a problem that's going to keep on happening, unless you think Israel's about to kind of like tone down. But he's going to keep on getting asked this question about toning down the rhetoric. He's endorsed by JVP, which is directly tied into a lot of this violence. He's endorsed by DSA, who we all know they're not friends of, keeping the tone down. So when things pipe up again next year, and when there's tension on the campuses, and when, let's say, some protester gets a wild hair and throws a brick at some kid, I don't believe that he's going to be the one that is going to, handle this correctly, that's going to call out the hate from a specific place and is going to make a meaningful attempt at trying to protect Jews.
There are the most amount of Jews in the United States live there in New York, right?
In my living room.
And you're so is there enough? Do you have enough concerned Jewish voters in New York to be able to stop this guy?
Yeah, that's the big question. I, in my mind, have it as a 60-40 split, where Zohran, I think, does end up kind of eking it out. That being said, Eric Adams is going to go and just shake every hand. When it comes to dealing with Trump, the way to deal with Trump is you gotta go down on the guy a little bit. And that's kind of what Eric Adams is key at. Bibi is the GOAT at this.
Yeah.
You want to see, ladies, if you want to see how to please yo man, watch Bibi Netanyahu on Fox News or CNN, okay? That is a clinic on what it is like. He is out there just tooting that horn for his life. And Eric Adams also, he did that. Eric Adams wanted to stay out of prison, so he did the same stuff. And you know what? He stayed out of prison, and, now he has a good chance at getting a lot of that. We're about to see so much MAGA money, AIPAC money, Trump money, all of the money from all these other interest groups, real estate like moguls, billionaires, hedge funds, Bill Ackman, that loud guy with the Twitter account. They're all going to descend on this election. And what is fascinating is that this has never happened before. We have only had Democratic primaries decide who the mayor was, because the idea of an independent or a Republican winning to be the NYC mayor is just so far-fetched. This is going to be the first time where it's going to be an actual competition, and we got until November for things to roll out. More and more stuff is going to come out about both of these candidates. Actually, we already know everything about Eric Adams.
Yeah. Here he is. This is Mamdani talking about billionaires.
You are a self-described democratic socialist. Do you think that billionaires have a right to exist?
I don't think that we should have billionaires because, frankly, it is so much money in a moment of such inequality. And ultimately, what we need more of is equality across our city and across our state and across our country. And I look forward to work with everyone, including billionaires, to make a city that is fairer for all of them.
Yeah, he doesn't think they should exist, but he's looking forward to working with them before he makes them no longer exist.
He's a 33-year-old dude. Part of me is also like, this is what happens if you let a 33-year-old run a campaign. It's why he keeps on stepping in these obvious traps. There's obvious answers to this stuff that he just keeps on screwing up. And to be honest, when he gets into office, a lot of his ideas, free buses, which, by the way, they're already free. Okay? Free buses? Sure, go for free buses. The putting, I will say, I think that he gets the idea of those free, of the government-run supermarkets.
Yeah.
I actually think that's actually not a bad idea. If you know the way that New York is set up at all, there's food deserts. It's not like he wants them all to become it. Put a food desert, supermarket out there. Go for it. God bless you. But he's going to run up against all of these unions. He hasn't made any friends. He hasn't actually done any of the hand-holding stuff. He won a Democratic primary on the hottest day of the year when all of Cuomo's voting base were a bunch of old Jews from Sheepshead Bay who didn't show up. So there is that element here where he kind of threw, not a loophole or whatever, but he won a primary, and that's exactly what it is. He won a primary. And there's a lot of time between now and the election. A lot of stuff is going to happen between them. I'm sure he's going to keep on getting into these gaffes, and I don't know if it's enough to sink him, but I do think that it is crazy that it's going to be close, that a Democrat may not win for mayor in New York.
Eitan, you and I have known each other for about 2 years, and after October 7th, do you notice people noticing you more as a Jewish man? You're the loudest guy in the world, so it's pretty hard to ignore you. But do you feel less safe after October 7th than you do now?
Let me tell you, 100% yes. And that's not that I am always in danger. It is that, my grandparents are Holocaust survivors, and my parents, obviously, Holocaust education was a big deal, but it's always like force fed down your throat. Like when you're an elementary school kid, what do you care about like the Holocaust? Like all of the stories and stuff, and you'd hear about the run up, and I was just like, whatever. We live in Springfield, New Jersey. None of this stuff is relevant. I can't even begin to, there's no idea as to what this is. Before my grandmother died, I started to record conversations with her, and I started to get her story. And I remember hearing, about how the Cossacks came in and how just, socially things changed, and how all of a sudden her friends but they would turn their backs to her. And just, that base that she had, just her reality kind of shifted. After October 7th, seeing some of the things that swastikas. I see swastikas on buildings occasionally. Globalize the Intifada chants. It's literally calling for a lynch mob against Jews. In Colombia, you're seeing kids being assaulted. You're seeing just the sheer base number of hate crimes against Jews spike in insanely scary ways. You're seeing anti-Semitic language that is just kind of accepted and it made mainstream, and is in the mainstream a little bit. Kanye's song was played in clubs for a second. That's just stuff that is happening now that when I was growing up, it just wasn't there. The idea of experiencing anti-Semitism firsthand, it was kind of alien. When I started to become bigger on the internet, I did start to see it in the comment sections, but never anything more than the comment sections. That was it. October 7th happens, and then you're seeing it in person, in front of you. I have talked to kids who have gotten assaulted by this. I have family in Israel. I hear what they're talking about, my sisters. I heard someone call my 2-year-old nephew a future IDF member. What are we talking about here? That stuff that before October 7th was just not around, and it is around now. And to be honest, Zohran has an obligation to identify where the hate speech is coming from and to label it specifically. He's able to say, I'm against Bibi. I don't like how this war is handled. I hate the billionaires, but the language has gone too far, and I can say free Palestine while I'm also saying not to globalize the Intifada against the Jews. And there's a very simple answer to this. And the problem is that his base are people that have been largely responsible for this rise in anti-Semitism. So he does have to handle it. He can say whatever he wants about Israel, but he does have to acknowledge that the anti-Semitic hate crime stuff did spike because of anti-Israel spaces, and there's a way to handle it. And he's just not doing it.
I was in New York a couple of weeks ago, and then a couple of months after that or before that, and I remember walking down the street and seeing what was left over. It was a poster that somebody had put up, and someone had torn it down. There was some of it was still left on the pole, and it was a picture of a baby that was taken as one of the hostages. So here somebody comes along, sees a picture of a child, and decides, and it says, save the hostage, return the hostages, and someone felt it was okay to just tear that off a pole. Where, if you had a picture of a dog that had been lost, help me find my dog, people wouldn't tear that down. But I guess they felt it was okay to remove a plea for a child to be released from Hamas.
Yeah, it was a huge it was interesting after October 7th, where I thought it was a no-brainer that the default position of everyone was going to be let's get the hostages out and let's work towards some sort of resolution to the war that's happening there. It was crazy seeing the stance of let's get the hostages out be controversial. To me, that made no sense. And it was a thing that we kept on coming up against here, where just the idea of saying hey, can we get the hostages out of there was met with so much just hate and anger. And also, once again, I got family in Israel. If God forbid any of this stuff happened to them, if they were, in a tunnel, I know how certain people that I know personally would respond to this. I know how they would treat my family because I've seen them say stuff online that is directly about this. The hostage posters getting taken down was so stupid because I'm like, put up a pro-Palestinian poster next to it. Why are you ripping it down when the answer isn't to like erase the trauma here? The answer is to acknowledge and then add your trauma onto it and try to find a bridge. That being said, by the way, as a Jewish man, John,
Yes. Wait, whoa, you're Jewish?
I occasionally.
Okay.
When the casting agents call, that's when. As a Jew, John, sometimes I like to, this is a little bit of a secret. I like to hang up hostage posters in my room and take them down just to see what the big energy thing was. And I've done it before. And let me tell you, John, exhilarating. So I don't do that, by the way, to Jewish Seattle. By the way,
yes.
I'm in Seattle.
No.
August 9th, I'm coming to Seattle.
For what?
At a synagogue.
For what?
I'm performing at a synagogue out there.
Oh, huh? What am I supposed to? No, supposed to. That is. What are you doing? A synagogue? You doing synagogue comedy now?
Oh, listen, I always do synagogue comedy, okay? I'm the king of synagogue comedy.
Okay.
I'm going to be performing somewhere in Seattle on August 9th. Anyway, didn't want to derail you, but...
No. Okay, well, then you're going to come back in here again?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right, let's do that. All right. I can let you go enjoy your what is it, Thursday?
Wednesday.
It's a Wednesday here. John,
only
I got
Wednesday?
one question,
Yes,
though. If
yes.
I come into studio,
Yes.
I got to get, because you are the only non-Jewish person I've ever met.
Yeah.
I got to get you to sign my Pope trading card, okay? I need a John Curley autographed Pope Leo, okay?
I know you chose him. I think he was your guy because you had a whole list of who you were voting for on that one. Mm-hmm. I think you had.
I think that Pope Leo is secretly Jewish. Yeah, he's a White Sox fan also. You know how much patience and devotion to a thing you have to be a White Sox fan all this year? They picked the right one.
Jesus is coming back and the White Sox are going to win the World Series. Put that down. Eitan, hey, I'll get here into Seattle and we'll promote the hell out of it for you, okay?